Hi, this is Swan with Swan Amity Studios, and today we are making a simple snowball block. Now, what I like about the snowball block is that it's really versatile. There's lots of things you can do with it, and with traditional piecing methods, it's very, very easy to create. So today we're looking at one that is going to be a 6-inch finished block, and we're starting therefore with a 6.5-inch background square. 6.5 by 6.5. We also have 4 different corner colors. So we're starting with a fabric that has a little bit of directionality. In other words, it has a front and a back. And that's just because it has a question mark on it. We want to make sure that the question mark faces the right direction. So when we see the question mark, it's in the right direction, turn that upside down and put that onto our first corner. Now we're lining up right in the corner and staying right on the sides, which means that if you have a little bit of a fingernail, this is a good time to kind of shift your fabric around, making sure that you have lined up very well in all the corners. I'm just making sure that I'm matching my previous ones. They all have the right color in the right corner. And as you're doing that, if you don't have a little bit of a fingernail, this is a good time to get out your stiletto and just give it a little push, making sure that your fabric comes right up to the side, so that you're ready to go with your stitching. Now I have one already in progress. Let's take a look at that. And some of you know that I love to stitch with the seam guide. So if you track your eyes over here, you notice that on the machine already is my seam guide. I'm using the guides from So Very Smooth, which is my favorite seam guide company. I just think they make a really superior product. And it has a nice high ridge on the edge of it so that as you push your block into the machine and move it through the needle, there's really this nice high ridge. So it's easy to keep your pieces aligned very well. So Very Smooth at soverysmooth.com. Check them out. Pick up a seam guide. You'll really love them. What I like about doing my snowballs with the seam guide is precision. It just makes me feel like a more confident piecer. And if you've met me, you know I'm an applicator at heart, but I really love pieced projects. I like how they work out. I like how they make me feel. I like how they go with applique. So with our snowball block, normally, traditionally, we would get out our ruler. I would line up that 45-degree angle with the edge corner to corner, and I would draw a line from corner to corner. I would then stitch on the line, trim off 1/4 of an inch away from that line, and press outward. Now, today, the only difference that I'm going to do is that I want to actually trim in advance. And when I trim in advance, that allows me to not have to remove my seam guide from the machine while I'm working. So instead of drawing that line corner to corner, I'm going to line up that 45-degree angle right on the edge again. And this time I'm going to be looking for my 1/4 inch mark. Is it on that corner? Is it on the opposite corner? Yes, great. We're ready to trim. We're going to go ahead and trim that little guy off. Save him. And then we're going to come over to the machine and stitch. Now you notice I don't trim them all in advance, and that's really because as you move back and forth from your trimming surface to your stitching surface, it's possible for those to slip around and not be exactly where you put them. So we're gonna not cut them all at the same time. Here we come over to the machine. You can absolutely pin this guy in advance if you want to. I'm going to start with my stiletto in hand, and I'm going to make sure that as the needle comes up to the point, it goes right into the point as we start. I have a little starter in here that's actually the little trim from my previous section, and the only thing I'm paying attention to now is, does everything stay butted up against the seam guide? And as that last little section goes through, I'd kind of use my stiletto to guide it to make sure that my stitching line is corner to corner and nothing shifts in that little top piece of fabric. I want a really nice, clean connection. Now, whenever I trim for snowballs that aren't teeny tiny, if I was doing like a 2-inch snowball, I probably wouldn't save my little trimmings. But a 6-inch snowball, this is still a pretty sizable amount of fabric. And you know me, I am a batik freak. I love them. And I really just can't stand to toss this section. It's still very pretty. It's going to show up in something else. Let's go ahead and use it as a little in-betweener. So piece I've trimmed off is going to go in behind the block. Once again, I'm using my stiletto because we have a bias edge. And now we have stitched a little half square triangle addition. As I go around the block and trim off the next section, that will become what goes in behind the block each time. You can see I've got a nice little pile of those stitched and ready to press. And stay tuned. Future me has a plan for that, and we will get to those. Whenever I do a project where I have a lot of cutoffs, I feel like it's a really great opportunity to do a little something that goes with it because we have all of those colors already ready to go. Let's make a little something fun to go with our principal project. So, what happens when we press out our snowball blocks? Here is one pressed traditionally. I really like this method. It's the simple concept of pressing to the dark side, which we all do in the quilting world. And you can see we've pressed towards those outside corners in every case. Create a little ridge line, that's fine. It's not a whole lot of bulk. And in each case, what we've done is make sure that the center of our snowball is crisp and bright white. That's what I'm looking for when I'm making a snowball. Now, alternatively, you may have been looking at some of the pressing methods that are showing you how to press open. And let's take a look at this one on the bottom. This one is pressed open. You can see all the seams from the back side. Open, open, open. Wonderful. Now, in comparison, the block that's been pressed open is a little flatter than the block that has not been pressed open. That's fine. That's the preference of a lot of our quilters that are pressing open right now, is to get that extra flatness, flat block. And if you've been to one of my quilting classes, you know that I do often say the cleanest, flattest, smoothest possible surface is the best one to quilt on. So you'd say, well, why don't you press everything flat, Swan? When I'm pressing seams open, if you're looking down from the camera right now onto your screen, you're seeing some little shadowing effects of having pressed open. When you're working with really pale fabrics in the center and you press open, you're going to see a little bit of shadowing effect. Now, depending on how you plan on quilting your final project, that might not bother you at all. In fact, it may just be a little feature and you use it to do your first line of stitching. Fine, that's wonderful. But if that's not something you're really aiming to see, if you're looking for that truly crisp, clean center, then pressing open is maybe not the choice you'd like to make. However, we make choices for all different kinds of reasons. So remember, there's no such thing as right way, wrong way, or vice versa. It is what is pleasing you and what is the right thing for the project you're working on right now. So here's my only advice if you plan to stitch and press open. Bring your stitches a little closer together if you plan to stitch and press open. Here I'm using a 2-inch stitch length and pressing towards the fabric, traditional pressing. I feel good about the strength of that seam. Only difference between this block and this block I've pressed open and therefore I have shortened my stitch a little bit. And I've really shortened it a small amount. It's like a 1.5 instead of a 2.0 stitch length. Okay? This has been Swan with Swan Amity Studios. We hope you visit us on swanamity.com. That's SWANAMITY.com. Check out all the fun things that we have to offer you, and stay tuned for the next video in this series. We're going to be doing snowballs this time around, and next time we'll be looking at a concept I like to call snow globes. How do we put those together, and what are we going to do with them in the end? Not to mention those little leftovers. We'll have a little fun with those too. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you again. Bye.